Coming out of that experience, I was like, I'm never gonna do this again. This whole 3-day potty training thing honestly kind of feels like a scam. This next one is also a little bit of a hot take. If that is what's happening, your child was probably not ready to start potty training. You're probably not going to be accident-free within 3 days. So here are the things that I wish I knew before I started potty training. Hello friend, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to today's video. We are going to do kind of like a potty training 101, but I'm going to start with the disclaimer that I am not a potty training expert by any means. This is simply going to be like your internet bestie sharing her potty training experiences. My background on potty training is that I am a mom of 3 and I have potty trained 2 of my children, both a boy and a girl, if that means anything to you. But that is my background on potty training. I am not an expert. I'm really just going to be sharing with you guys what this process looked like for our family. I have had a number of people over the years ask me for something related to potty training here on YouTube, and I just haven't done it. And I think one of the biggest reasons that I haven't is the fact that I honestly disagree with a lot of what is recommended in terms of processes and timelines and just the narratives around potty training that I think parents are being sold these days. Does that mean that my opinion is like the most important thing? No, but I am going to share it with you guys today for anyone that is looking for just raw and realistic potty training support. So today we are going to be talking about the things that I wish that I had known before starting, potty training essentials, the process that we followed, our experience with it, kind of with our boy and our girl, and all of the nitty-gritty around potty training. So if that sounds interesting to you, then just keep on watching. The very first thing that I want to talk about is when to start potty training, because I think that's where a lot of parents get stuck, and the big question mark is coming from is like, when do you actually start this thing? Is there any benefit to starting earlier, any benefit to starting later, or when should we start in general? The average age that a child usually starts potty training is somewhere between 18 to 30 months. That is a huge gap in a huge age range developmentally. Kids are all over the place in terms of development and milestones and communication and readiness in that range. And I think a lot of time parents see that age range and think like, okay, maybe like age 2, 24 months is the sweet spot. I would beg to differ. I actually think that somewhere around 30 months, like 2.5, is a sweet spot for potty training. I think that if you want to do like the fastest potty training possible with the least amount of accidents, the best rate of success, that somewhere around 30 months is actually like the best time to do it. Starting potty training earlier doesn't always mean that it's going to be faster. And I think like for the most part, it usually prolongs the potty training process when you start it at a point that your kids are not ready. When it comes to readiness, let's just chat through some of the most popular signs of readiness that experts, books will tell you to look for before you start potty training. First one is that your child is staying dry for longer stretches of time during the day. Oftentimes the general time frame that people will say to look for is like 2 hours. Next thing is that your child is showing interest in the potty. So, I mean, what toddler honestly is not showing interest in the potty? I feel like I have not gone to the bathroom by myself in 4 years, but generally people will say that if your child is showing interest in the potty, kind of in and around that, just interested in general, that could be a good time to start potty training. Last, largely agreed on sign of readiness is that your child can follow basic instruction and that their communication level is at a point where you could kind of tell them what to do, a string of tasks, and they could actually follow those things. Now, I would agree with all of those different signs of readiness that are kind of widely accepted, but I would add a longer list to that if I was you and for myself when it comes to me actually deciding if it is the right time to potty train my child. So here is my version of the additional signs of readiness to look for. First one would be that your toddler is hiding when they go to the bathroom. This could be squatting in the corner of the playroom. This could be trying to hide in their closet. It could be hiding behind the couch. If your toddler is recognizing that they need to go to the bathroom and inherently they're looking for some sort of privacy or to move away from you while that's happening, that is like a major biological sign that they're starting to have more awareness of bodily function in general and also social cues. And I think that that is actually a really huge indicator and helpful sign that your child is ready to start potty training. The next one that I would add to this list is that your child is actually starting to get an awareness of the fact that they are peeing or pooping. This is a pretty advanced sign, but if your child is not really aware that pee is coming out of their body or poop is coming out of their body, and they're not able to kind of like verbalize that, then they might not be ready for potty training yet. It can be really hard for a child to make that connection to the feeling of urges. And I think sometimes we try and rush this by by trying to show them that feeling by taking all their clothes off and having them experience what it's like to have pee all over their bodies. But if you wait a few months longer and potty train a little bit later, you might notice that your toddler is already starting to indicate some of these things of I have to poop or I'm pooping, or that they're able to communicate what's happening to their bodies and in their bodies a little bit more clearly with you. Another huge one that I would add to this readiness list is that your child is starting to become uncomfortable in a dirty pull-up or a dirty diaper, or they really dislike diaper changes. This is a little bit different than just the squiggly 1-year-old who wants to get away during a diaper change, because that is my 15-month-old right now. It's like trying to wrangle an alligator. It's not that. It's more so when they are like just so done with the feeling of having the pull-up on. When they go to the bathroom, they want you to change it right away. To me, that is like a really great indication that they would probably do better with potty training and be happier wearing underwear. And the last sign of readiness that I would add to my personal list that I use as a mom is growing independence. And when your toddler is starting to say, I want to do things myself, or if you try to help them, they're verbalizing like, nope, I've got it. I think that's a really great sign that something like potty training is something that they're ready to take ownership in and actually accomplish because they want to do it. The rise of toddler independence that really flares up somewhere between 18 months old all the way up to age 3 can be a great thing for things like potty training, because it really does spur them towards the motivation to want to do things themselves, but it can also be really tricky in other areas of parenting. And one of the ones that I get DMs about all the time is picky eating. 90% of children are not receiving their recommended levels of fruits and vegetables in their diet, and that is why Haya was created. Haya is a super powered chewable multivitamin for kids over the age of 2, and in our house we are super fans of Haya. I have been a paying customer with them for over a year now because they really are incredible when it comes to filling in nutritional gaps in modern children's diets. These multivitamins are formulated with the help of pediatricians and nutritional experts, and they are pressed with 12 organic fruits and veggies and then supercharged with 15 essential vitamins and minerals, so they can help your kids with things like immune system, energy, mood, concentration, brain function, and so much more. The reason that I chose the Haya multivitamin for my kids is because a lot of the other kids' multivitamins that are available are kind of like candy in disguise. They've got so many unhealthy chemicals, gummy additives, and also just up to 2 teaspoons of sugar, which is absolutely insane for something that we are trying to give to our kids to support their health every single day. Haya contains 0 sugar and 0 gummy junk, and yet it is still something that even the pickiest of eaters love. I find it so funny, but pretty well every single day for the last year, my kids are actually the one to ask me for their multivitamin. They're constantly reminding me of it. When we go on vacation, they're like double checking to make sure that we have it because they are huge fans of the Haya multivitamins and they never want to miss a day. They are non-GMO, vegan, dairy-free, allergy-free, nut-free, basically free of anything that you would want them to be free of, and they make it so simple because they will send a bottle straight to your doorstep. So you have one less thing to worry about, and your first order will come in this reusable glass jar that also comes with little stickers, so your kids can actually customize the bottle as well, and my kids have had so much fun with that. So if you have a hyper independent, picky eater and you are just looking to support them in their diet and make sure that they're getting the nourishment they need, Haya is for you. And they have given me a super generous offer that you guys can only access through this link. So here is what it is. If you want to save 50% off of your first purchase with them, all you have to do is go to hayahealth.com/BethMoore. I will put it here on the screen down in the description box. Again, it is hayahealth.com/BethMoore, and that is the link that you need to use to get that 50% off of your first purchase. Again, it's not available anywhere else except for that link, so head there. I'm sure that you guys will love it and your kids will be asking for it as much as mine do. So thank you so much to Haya for working with me on today's video. So those are all of the things that I personally look for as a mom when it comes to potty training, and those are not all the things that I knew to look for on the first go around. I'm gonna share really quickly the kind of Cole's Notes version of my potty training experience with my girl compared to my potty training experience with my boy. So my very first potty training experience was with one of my girls around age 2, and that timing I kind of just went off of everything that I had read online. I didn't read any books, I didn't actually purchase any of the courses, but I was following all the accounts. I was kind of looking for as much information I could get without like actually actually signing on to a course. And the one that really stuck out to me was the whole 3-day potty training method. That sounded great. I thought if we can have this done in 3 days, like I'm home with her, I'm willing to do whatever I need to do to get it done in 3 days. So I kind of went all in on that approach and that method. We didn't have all of the signs of readiness that I just listed off a second ago. In hindsight, that would have been really helpful, but I did have pretty well all of the signs of readiness that I was seeing advertised by those courses or by the books that are really popular. And even just in a quick Google search, I was like, yep, she's got all of those signs of readiness. So I did the 3-day method. I had the whole potty chart. I had pee pads all over the house. We did no clothing, lots of liquid, not leaving the house, and basically just keeping a timer going as some sort of indication for her and for me that it was time to try and go to the potty again. Even if my child wasn't verbalizing anything about needing to go to the bathroom, because they didn't really know what that felt like, I was literally just doing that, let's go sit on the potty, basically like every 15 minutes for what felt like so long. And basically coming out of that experience, I was like, I'm never gonna do this again, because not only did the 3-day method not actually work to have my child potty trained in the course of that week, we went on to feel like we were potty training and figuring out this process for somewhere between like 4 to 6 months. What was interesting is that at the same time that this was happening, I had a number of friends with a little girl around the same age as mine that were also going through this process. Pretty well all of us tried to do this 3-day potty training method thing, and we were all kind of going back and forth and sharing experiences with each other, and all of us found that we were potty training, dealing with accidents of all kinds for like 6 months. And it was just so different than what I was thinking potty training was going to look like coming into it. After having looked at all these 3-day potty training method things and seeing the reviews and whatever else, I was just like, this is a little bit different than I was thinking. But I think that the biggest thing that went wrong in the process is the fact that we did it before our children really had all of those signs of readiness that I had mentioned. We were just kind of following some sort of framework of advice that may have worked for one kid, but didn't necessarily work for ours. And so with that being said, the potty training experience looked very different for our second child than it did for our first. On round 2, I was potty training a boy, and I had heard that boys can take way longer to potty train than girls. I think that was the kind of biggest driving motivation for me to wait longer. But now I wish that I could just go back in time and take this exact same approach with my little girl, because it worked so much better to take the pressure off and to kind of ditch the whole 3-day potty training mentality that I went in with the first time. So on round 2 with my little boy, I waited until I saw all the signs of readiness. And I'm talking that entire list that I mentioned a second ago, but then we waited even longer, like an additional 2 to 3 months after I saw the initial signs of readiness, so that there would be more time for more signs of readiness to appear, and that we could both get to a place where both myself as mom and both my child were ready to do this together. Another huge benefit of this approach in just waiting it out for a longer period of time is that it gave us honestly months of time to have conversation about this, to talk about the fact that we were going to be using the potty soon and getting my child excited about that, to process what this was going to look like, and to explain what all the different steps of going to the potty are, so that before we actually started, my child had so much time to mentally prepare for this to actually happen. The other things that I did differently is that I had no potty chart to kind of track the progress anywhere. I had no timers running to see if enough time had passed between the last potty break and the next potty break. I had no time duration in my head as to when this was supposed to be done. I just didn't go into it thinking like, oh, it's gonna be 3 days, it's gonna be 4 days, it's gonna be 5. I just thought, we'll just take this day by day. I did not give my child any excess water to try and force the feeling of needing to go to the bathroom. We simply waited until my child was ready, and then all that we did was allow it to be cause and effect. We allowed our child to see what the natural consequence was of needing to go to the bathroom and not getting there in time, and the fact that that means that there is pee. We had to do cleanups on this for like the first day or two, and then after that our child just figured out like, I don't like the feeling of pee on me or around me, and figured out I need to go to the bathroom when I feel this feeling coming so that this does not happen again. But the crazy thing about it is the fact that when we kind of just cut back back and simplified from all of the things that all of the courses and the experts tell you to do and just waited a little bit longer and let natural consequences kind of do their thing, that we saw way less time between day one of potty training and the point at which our child was consistently making it to the bathroom on time, taking themselves there, and no longer having accidents. It did not need to be a 6-month long drawn out process. It literally took like a week. So here are the things that I wish I knew before I started potty training. First thing is to start later than you think. Just wait it out. Basically, wait until your child seems like they are showing most of the signs of readiness, and then wait even longer. I think the whole pressure around the missed opportunity thing between 18 months to 30 months is kind of silly, but I think the people that make money off of potty training products do better to try and push it earlier, because they're going to be potty training for a longer period of time than if you just wait until you and your child are ready. When you can wait longer, I think it leads to less frustration for both of you, less resistance, and higher rates of success. The next thing that I wish I knew is that if you can avoid doing things that you'll need to retrain later, it's going to make the process easier for you. I shared a little bit about this on Instagram, but the two kind of main areas that I see this are with pull-ups and with toddler potty seats. Pull-ups are something that we really fell into with our first. We just kept using the pull-up every time. We didn't want to run into an incident, having some sort of pee accident. So if we were at church for a long time on Sundays, or we were going to be going to the mall and we just didn't want to deal with it, we would throw on a pull-up. But basically what we ended up realizing is that those feel a lot like diapers. And the longer your kids have that safety net without experiencing the natural consequence, the longer I have found that it's going to drag out potty training. And the longer I have seen that happen with our friends' kids as well. And so I just say, like, cut the pull-ups when you're ready. Treat nighttime potty training completely different from daytime. Pull-ups I think are still okay for nighttime until your kids are starting to wake up dry. But otherwise, like, just don't use them. I say just straight underwear or no clothing at all. The other thing that I mentioned around the retraining thing is the toddler potty seats. This one is a little bit of a hot take. I know that the toddler potty seats can be really popular for kids because kids are sometimes a little bit afraid of the bigger grown-up potties. I totally get that, but I think that you'd be better to wait until they grow out of that fear and offer more exposure to the potty as opposed to trying to forcing them to go on the smaller seats, because you still have to work through that fear with them at some point anyway. Maybe that's when you're out at the mall and you need them to go to the potty, but they're afraid of the big toilet, or it's even just in your own home. And so for us, I just have completely bypassed the toddler seats. We go straight to the grown-up potty. I will get into some of my favorite attachments to make it safer for their little bottoms when I get into my essentials in a minute. The next thing that I wish I knew is that this whole 3-day potty training thing honestly kind of feels like a scam. I think that those courses are sold because parents are afraid of potty training. They want this to go well. They don't want to spend a lot of time doing it. And so that sounds really attractive to be done in 3 days. I know that for myself, that's why I kind of was like interested in that method, is because nobody wants to do this for longer than they need to do it. But I think that they're kind of misleading parents in the reality that most kids, like from the time that they start potty training to the time that they're completely accident free, on average, that's a 4 to 6 month process. It's definitely a shorter process the longer you wait and the more that you like allow your child to grow into being ready. But if you do it sometime between 18 to 30 months, they're probably going to take months to actually get to a point where they are finally accident free completely. So if you do choose to do some sort of 3-day method, that could be a great Kickstarter for your family, but I would say just mentally go into it with the expectation that you're probably not going to be accident free within 3 days. The next thing is to avoid inconsistency with this like the plague. If you are starting and you are starting at a point where maybe your child is not ready and you're noticing that it's like not really working or you're feeling overwhelmed, pause it, revisit it later. Don't drag this out with inconsistency where it's like some days we're wearing underwear, some days we're in pull-ups, some days we go to the potty, sometimes we just do the change. Like, you've got to be so consistent with it. And that's why I say, like, wait until you are ready, wait until they are ready, and then just rip the band-aid. No more pull-ups. up, just allow the natural consequences to happen until you have figured it out, because the back and forth is really confusing for kids and it's just going to prolong the experience for you. This next one is also a little bit of a hot take, but I wish that I knew, especially the first time going into all of this, that like using rewards on a small scale is not going to ruin my children for the rest of their lives. I think that a lot of the potty training experts and courses kind of demonize using any sort of treat because the concern is for the motivation of the child. We don't want them to be motivated because they're going to get a treat every time. That's going to mess up their relationship with their body and their bodily functions and XYZ. I think it's so over the top. I think like if you want to use something very small to reward your child, whether that is a chocolate chip, maybe it's something sugar-free, maybe it is a fruit snack, maybe it is a Cheerio, I don't know. You can figure out what that needs to be to kind of make it like worthwhile. You could even use fruit, a blueberry. But all I'm saying is like we were able to use chocolate chips as like you get 1 if you pee, you get 2 if you poo. Beyond like day 4, that was not even something that was part of the equation. I literally said to my kids both times, do I get chocolate chips when I go to the bathroom every time? And they're like, no. And it's like, yeah, because I learned how to go to the potty and now you've learned how to go to the potty too. Isn't that exciting? And my kids are just like, oh yeah, and just kind of moved on past the whole treat thing as a reward. And so in the beginning stages, I think it was exciting for them and a little bit more of a motivator. And then beyond the point that like they didn't need that to go anymore and they had learned how to go, we just completely cut that and it was totally fine. I think like it doesn't need to be this mentality of like if we start with something small, we're gonna have to work up to a point where we're giving them gifts to go and all of this stuff. If that is what's happening, your child was probably not ready to start potty training. If you want to use treats as a little bit of a motivator, I don't think that that's the end of the world. I don't think that you need to be afraid that your child is going to need that reward in order to go to the bathroom every single time. Next thing I wish I knew is that daytime and nighttime training, as I mentioned, are like completely different things. Nighttime potty training usually doesn't happen for like another 6 to 12 months after you have nailed down the daytime. And I mean nailed down, not from like the point that you're still having accidents, but to the point where your kids are staying dry during the day outside of the times that they are going to the bathroom. So you can kind of remove nighttime from the equation while you're getting started. And I know that that gives a lot of parents way more peace of mind. Next thing that I wish I knew is that it's not only your child that needs to be ready, but also you that needs to be ready. Mentally, emotionally, you want to choose a time where you feel like you can handle this personally, knowing that it might be a while that you're doing this. And also just from the perspective of like, you don't want to be going through some sort of major life transition while this is happening. So if you are going through a major life transition, like moving, adding a new baby to the family, navigating loss, these are all major life events and major life transitions that are going to be really hard to also try and deal with while potty training is happening. Life happens, of course, but if you can try and give it a little bit more space between life events like that, it's going to make it a lot easier for everyone. And the last thing that I wish I knew is to expect regressions and to expect setbacks and to not go into any sort of potty training plan with the idea that this is only going to happen for a few days. I do think that like the longer you wait, again, the faster you can see success with this, but the more that you can just hold on to the reality that this is probably going to take a while, the better. Very quickly, I am going to share with you guys some of our potty training essentials, and this is a very minimal list. I do think that this is an area where, because there is so much fear around it for moms and for parents in general, that people try to make money off of your fear. And so I'm just very much anti that. And I'm going to share with you guys this short list of things that we have found really helpful. The first thing that I'm going to recommend to you is actually free. And it is an episode of, it's actually 2 episodes of a show that has been really helpful for my kids when it has come to learning how to go to the potty. And that is Daniel Tiger. In episode 1, I believe they have one that is called Daniel Goes to the Potty or Prince Wednesday Goes to the Potty. And then again in season 3, I think episode 8, there's another potty training related video. But the content on potty training in these episodes is so good. They tackle things like when your kid is playing and they don't want to leave what they're doing, but they do still need to stop and go to the bathroom. They tackle things like going to the bathroom before you leave the house, just in case. They tackle things like what happens when you're out of the house and you need to go to the bathroom. It is just such a helpful way to simplify these concepts for your kids and to make it exciting and engaging for them. The other thing that is so huge is that these episodes have songs that have been, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, instrumental in me teaching my kids about going to the potty. There is one song in these episodes that I think is called Stop and Go go potty or something like that. But basically it says like when you have to go potty, stop and go right away, wash, flush, and be on your way. Literally the entire time my kids are going to the potty, they're like singing this song and repeating that process back. And I have just found the Daniel Tiger content to be so helpful around potty training. Next thing is the baby Bjorn seat. I will put a picture of it here and a link down in the description box. This is the only potty attachment, potty device that I have bought for my kids and have potty trained them with. Nothing else, no standalone seats, nothing else that they need to climb up on. We have like a little stool that they use to wash their hands that we had already. I just slide that under their feet when they're going to the bathroom and we put this seat on top. It is like less than $30. Next thing is a green Bissell like little clean machine. I don't actually know what the formal name of this is, but it is like a green upholstery carpet couch cleaner thing that has been really helpful with potty training our kids. Luckily, we do have washable rugs in our house for the most part, but for things like the couch and for carpets when I don't want to lift up the whole thing, like this thing is so helpful. And if you do not have washable rugs or a washable couch, you are going to want this. So I will also put a link for this down in the description box. I'm pretty sure it's like less than $100. Next thing is underwear that your kid is excited about. I learned this the first time with my first child that buying like generic underwear, we're not going to make that child excited about wearing the underwear and about learning how to go to the bathroom. Look for the character underwear. Look for the ones that are so heinous, but your child is just excited about who is on the underwear. That is going to motivate them to want to get out of the pull-ups, out of the diapers, and into the underwear. The final thing that I would put on this list that has been like an essential for our family is the chocolate chips. That is what I use for like the first 3 to 4 days of potty training. I did 1 for pee, 2 for poop in the potty. There's going to be some people that don't like that and have a problem with that, but that is what worked for our family. And a few days in, when we're starting to see more success with it, we just take the chocolate chips away and we have a conversation about that, and our kids have been totally fine with it. But that is just what has worked for our family. That is all that I have to share today when it comes to potty training and our experience with that. I would love to hear in the comment section about your guys' experiences, maybe the age that you started potty training and how long it took until you were like completely accident free. And I don't mean like when you started to see the success. I mean like to the point that you had no more accidents anymore, because I think that is also helpful information for other parents that are reading the comments to have. But like when you potty trained, how long it took, what were some of the things that you thought were amazing and some of the things that maybe you could do without next time. I think that that information could also be helpful just for other parents that are trying to figure all of this out. But I hope that this video could be helpful for you guys today. I did also want to remind you guys that if any of you are navigating picky eating with your kids, or you just want to make sure that your kids are getting the daily nutritional support that they need, that the Hiya multivitamin is an incredible option for that. And they do have 50% off for you guys exclusively. So again, it's hiyahealth.com/BethMoore, and the link for that is down in the description box. So thank you so much to Hiya for working with me on this video. And until my next video, I love you guys. Happy potty training. I will be praying for you, and I will see you soon.